Behind the channel of MrBeast are a team of secret masterminds, but this team of people are so incredibly secretive that they rarely ever show their face on camera, which is why we spent countless hours researching who they are and how they got here, so that everyone can finally know the true masterminds behind MrBeast. And to find out how this team of pure geniuses were even assembled, we first need to go back to 2016, when the first mastermind was hired. His name is Tyler Conklin, and he just so happened to be the first successful instance of MrBeast cloning himself. See, back in 2016, MrBeast was just getting started. His channel only had around 300,000 subscribers. But as he continued to grow throughout this year, he realized that maybe he could start hiring people to work for his channel. Tyler was a long-term friend of Jimmy, and they had played on the same baseball team for years. So when there was a new spot on the channel for someone to work, MrBeast knew the perfect person for the job. However, what Tyler didn't know was that MrBeast planned to clone himself, and that he would be the first successful subject. But before this, Tyler actually appeared in multiple MrBeast videos, with the first one being on February 6th, 2016. In a video titled Beast Goes Camping. But what Tyler didn't know is that he would go on to be in multiple more MrBeast videos, and in one of them, something would happen which changed his life. In October of 2018, Tyler appeared in a video titled Last and Leave Circle Wins $10,000. And Tyler didn't know this at the time, but he would actually go on to win the $10,000.
Can I step out now?
Yeah, I mean, you already won 10 grand.
I'm free! Thank God. Oh, I was on my final legs. I only had like 3 more weeks left.
Only 3 more weeks. Cause you had a tent. All right, Tyler.
Hey.
There's your 10 grand.
And this money is good and all, but behind the scenes, MrBeast was starting the cloning process. See, around this time, MrBeast was running into issues around not having enough time for certain parts of the channel. So what if he could have someone follow him around for years upon years, and spend so much time with him that they start to become him?
But you should view anytime you have to work on things as a flaw, and it's like, what's the fastest way to stop working on something? Every time you work on it, have someone on your hip and have them learn how to do it, essentially clone you to do that task. And so anytime I don't ever work alone anymore, because anytime I'm doing something, that's a problem. And like someone should be doing this in 6 months. And so that's just like the cheat code to doing it.
This is what Jimmy planned to do with Tyler. Over the next 5 years, MrBeast would have Tyler follow him around and observe his every move, taking him into meetings, directing him around set, and allowing him to learn and emulate everything that Jimmy was doing. And after years and years of this process, if we skip forward to 2025, we can see that this cloning process works, with him now actually being the mastermind behind most of the videos produced on the MrBeast channel. But it wasn't always like this, as this next mastermind was actually the person responsible for the most viral YouTube video to ever grace the platform. See, if we just cast our minds back to 2020, before MrBeast Squid Game was released, we can see that Jimmy had grown the channel a lot more compared to what it was when he hired Tyler. At this point, he was no longer on 300,000 subscribers, but instead, he was on 50 million. But there was one big problem. MrBeast was growing so incredibly fast, and at this time he was still coming up with all the ideas surrounding his videos. So what if he could hire someone to essentially beat the YouTube algorithm for him? This is where the next mastermind, Joos, was hired. Mario was hired by MrBeast around late 2021, which just so happened to be the period of time right before Squid Game was released. See, what made Mario so special is that he understood retention graphs like nobody else. He was fascinated that you could see exactly when people clicked off and why they clicked off. And not only this, but prior to MrBeast, he had already worked with some of the biggest YouTubers on the planet, with one of them being Kwebbelkop. And when he got the opportunity to work with MrBeast, he knew exactly what to do. The first ever video that Mario worked on was actually the video right before Squid Game, titled Last to Take Hand Off Lamborghini Keeps It.
Nah, the first project was the Lambo video. That was literally, I arrived in America, and I think that was literally the day of the shoot or the next day, I arrived there and this boom, you're on set.
And after the success of the Lamborghini video, Mario was then thrown right into the deep end. Everything he had ever worked on was going to be put into this Squid Game video. And after directing MrBeast on the narrative, optimizing his retention, and making the best video possible, Mario and the Beast team came out the other side with a video which had over 768 million views. But what if I told you that this video was actually a curse for MrBeast? See, there is no way that MrBeast would be able to even come close to the amount of views that his Squid Game video generated. That was until he hired his next mastermind. His name is Paddy Galloway, and you might even know him from his ultra successful YouTube channel. But unlike the other people that Jimmy hired, Paddy was hired in the most unusual way you could ever think of. See, to get the full picture, we need to go back to November of 2021, when Paddy would upload a YouTube video to his own YouTube channel, which would change his life. The video was titled How MrBeast Squid Game Broke YouTube. Genius strategy. And it was simply a video breaking down how MrBeast Squid Game, well, broke YouTube. But unlike all of the other YouTube education videos out there, this video was different. See, the YouTube knowledge which Paddy showcased in this video was unlike anything anyone had ever heard, and the insane amount of value that this video had inside of it actually made it grow to nearly 4 million views, which is completely unheard of for a YouTube education channel. But what Paddy didn't know was that one of these nearly 4 million people was MrBeast. And shortly after seeing this video by Paddy, he reached out to him and asked him to review one of his videos. The catch? It was 3 AM.
And then later that night, the same evening when he sent the DM, he just sent me this video that he wanted some feedback on, just some notes on. He was like, give me your perspective on it. It was like 3, 4 a.m. Irish time. I was so tired, but like when I got that message and he said review it, I was like, I could do this the next morning, or I could do it right now and give him like really good work.
While you're top of mind.
He just rang me with another person on his team, and he's just like, basically the conversation went from like, yeah, we're gonna hire you at some point, to like, we want you now, and that was how it happened, and it was great.
And with that call, Paddy was now on the MrBeast team. But Paddy wasn't like Tyler or Mario. He was actually tasked with helping MrBeast in a completely different way. See, at this point, Paddy had been making YouTube videos for nearly 20 years, so he understood the YouTube algorithm in a way that no one else did. So over the course of 5 months, Paddy would work with MrBeast to produce some of the greatest content which they possibly could, with some of the videos coming out of this period of time being some of the most viral, including 100 Boys vs 100 Girls for 500 grand and Survive 100 Days in Circle, win $500,000. And it's very clear that Paddy had a part to play in these videos getting the success that they did. However, around the time that Paddy left the team, MrBeast started to realise a massive issue. See, at this point, him and his team of masterminds were able to create some of the greatest content that YouTube has ever seen. But this wasn't enough. See, MrBeast needed to level up not only his channel, but his business. Which is why over the course of the next 3 years, MrBeast would hire 3 different geniuses. One being an incredible filmmaker who worked with Casey Neistat, another being a master at editing, and another being a secret CEO, who MrBeast paid to set up one of his most successful companies. And the first goes by the name of Dan Mace. Dan is a filmmaker and now co-owner of one of MrBeast's most successful channels, who before actually working on the MrBeast team spent many years working with none other than Casey Neistat. See, although Casey and MrBeast might seem like completely different creators, they are actually more similar than you might think. See, both of them are extremely hard workers, and this rubs off on people around them. So when Dan was hired as a cameraman for Casey Neistat, he had no idea what he got himself into.
So what goes on behind the scenes with Casey, right? Chaos. That's the word. Absolute chaos. I have no idea. Like, we arrived, I think the way that we were doing it is we shoot the video, we backlogged by 1 day. So obviously we're not putting what we shot that day, we're not putting out the next day.
And although Dan didn't know this at the time, but what he was experiencing then was nothing compared to what he would go on to experience in the future. See, around the time of 2023, Dan Mace was hired by MrBeast to not only operate a camera here and there, but instead he wanted him to be the chief creative officer at his new channel, Beast Philanthropy. The first video which Dan worked on was titled We Saved an Orphanage, and simply put, it was one of the best videos that the Beast Philanthropy channel had ever seen. So after seeing that it got over 19 million views, Jimmy knew that Dan had to take over the channel. So over the next couple of years, Dan would continue to work on the philanthropy, not only creating videos, but producing films which are now able to average tens of millions of views. But even with his philanthropy channel taking over YouTube, MrBeast still knew he had to expand his operations. So before he hired a secret CEO, which would go on to set up an incredibly successful business, Jimmy managed to uncover an editing genius, who just so happened to be making some of YouTube's greatest videos. See, at this point, MrBeast had an incredible team of editors who were able to produce some of the most impressive VFX and animations, but the videos were still missing something. This is where Mack was hired, who had actually worked for Airac for countless years before he ventured out and started his own channel, which managed to get 4 million views on his first video. And although Mack didn't know this at the time, later on he would go on to do a lot more than just edit for MrBeast. See, back in 2023, Mack wasn't hired in a normal way. Instead, he appeared in 3 MrBeast videos as a contestant, competing for a prize of $800,000. And if you watched our last video, you would already know this, but Mack went on to win the money and in the process became the internet's favourite MrBeast contestant. And although Mack was already working on the editing team, after these videos were posted, he would start to become more and more incorporated in the actual MrBeast team and appearing on camera a lot more than he was before. But little did Mack know that in just under a year, his life was about to change. See, in December of 2024, MrBeast released his first episode of Beast Games, and in charge of the production was none other than Mack. Now, instead of editing the videos, Mack was now not only in the show, but directing a good portion of it behind the scenes, even telling Jimmy what to say at times.
Competing for it are 1,000 contestants! And competing for it are 1,000 contestants!
And although we've managed to witness firsthand Mack go from a simple video editor to a true genius, he is nothing compared to this next mastermind. His name is Chucky, and unlike the other people on this list, you actually might not recognize him. See, Chucky rarely ever shows his face on camera, and keeps what he's doing within the MrBeast company very secret. But to find out who he is, we need to go all the way back to 2018, when Chucky was simply just hired as a thumbnail designer. Now, although he would go on to co-found one of MrBeast's most successful businesses, at this time, Chucky's only job was to work on thumbnails. Now, during 2018, Chucky would go on to create countless thumbnails for Jimmy, and over the next couple of years, slowly perfecting his craft. Now, instead of just conveying the idea across, he was beginning to really learn how to get the viewer's attention, creating curiosity gaps and utilizing colors to make it impossible for people not to click. But over the years, something similar started to happen to Chucky to what we've seen with people like Tyler. See, Chucky had worked with MrBeast for so long that he actually started to adopt the way he works and how he thinks. So after building an incredibly solid relationship with not only MrBeast, but the entire team, when the idea of a new business came to mind, Jimmy knew the perfect candidate for the CEO. See, during 2023, a company was founded by both MrBeast and Chucky, called ViewStats. It was essentially a YouTube analytics tracker, similar to what you see with Social Blade, and although Chucky was unsure of how it would be received at the time, ViewStats would go on to be a monumental success, very quickly becoming the top tool that people would use for data and YouTube research. And the mastermind behind it all was Chucky. And I'd just like to say that if you happen to enjoy this video, I would highly recommend subscribing, as we're now coming up to 4,000 subscribers, and would love to hit it by the end of the month. And of course, thank you for watching.